This is going to be a pretty big one here. We have some serious news going down here. A pretty big patch across the entire board, actually, for Guild Wars 2. Take a look at what we've got here. Okay, look at that. Look at all these things. Okay, it's got so many bullet points. Let's get into it. What have we got here? So there's a bunch of bugs, fixes. That's very nice. The exposed changes coming. Now, this is a very exciting one here. So what they've done here is they've made it so that exposed does way less extra bonus damage, right? So it used to be 100% coin damage. Now it's 30%. It used to be 30% power. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it used to be, now it's 20%. It used to be 30% power damage. Now it's 10%. This is a massive nerf, right? And it's going to make fractals specifically a lot more burst resistant. Honestly, for like top level teams, it probably doesn't matter that much. It's actually more of a nerf for players who just kind of break the bar incidentally. It's really interesting that they're going about doing this, because fractals have been going this direction, kind of being very just golem-y, right? Like, not a lot of mechanics going on for a long time now, like being trivialized by mechanics. Stuff like fractal potions, fractal god, all that sort of thing. And bringing this in makes fractals a lot harder. I think it will certainly make breaking the bar a little bit less incentivized. But in a way, it means that you really want to think about when you're going to do it to get value out of it. Because now, you know, if you just like randomly break it, it's going to be like, not the end of the universe. You're going to really want to do it correctly and use it efficiently to generate value from this. Otherwise, it's just going to be a bit of a wet noodle. So in some ways, it does make it a little bit more interesting, actually, because before it was like always good. You just, you know, the bar's up, you immediately break it. This is particularly true in pugs, by the way, right? Like in pugs, see the bar, break the bar immediately. Well, if you break the bar at all, right? Because sometimes the crowd control's a little bit lacking, guys, okay? You know, it really is. But they've increased the window there to make it a little bit easier to get value out of. Like, it's not so coordinated. You don't need so much coordination to get value out of it, I guess. But yeah, overall, you know what? This is going to be a hot take. Hot take. I actually think it's a good change. You know, I think that 10% damage is still going to be worth going for. I think they should actually maybe buff the power to 20%. I disagree with Condi's getting what's kind of a better deal here. I think a weakness of condition damage should be that it's not as good at bursting. I think they should give power damage the 20% as well. It should just be, or they could even make both of them 25%. Maybe 25% is a little on the high side, to be honest, because of how fast things die in fractals. But I think this is a change in the right direction. I don't like bosses that just can't fight back. I don't like phases that just get skipped immediately because it's just totally broken. It's actually a larger problem in Guild Wars 2 PvE in general. I think that HP values are too low flat. Bosses are way too vulnerable to getting bursted down really, really quickly and just doing nothing. The issue you run into here is that if you do this, it actually makes it way harder. And I actually think that this change specifically makes fractals a fair bit harder for players, because you're going to have to do the mechanics now. In pug groups, you're definitely going to have to do the mechanics a lot more. Because again, like skipping phases on stuff like 100 CM is going to be way harder. Making arc do nothing on Shadow Observatory is going to be way harder. Even in tier 4s, right? Like, things are going to survive longer on the harder tier 4s. Stuff like, you know, Amala, right? In Twilight Oasis. All of this stuff is going to add up to making fractals a little bit more exciting. In a way, it's good, because I think that with the Defiance bar being as broken as it was, and just basically insta-phasing everything and causing it to die, and that combined with low HP, very high burst builds, it didn't... It didn't really set a good precedent for how the game plays, right? If you're a fractal player and you start playing this, what do you learn? Well, you learn that you just break the bar and the boss does nothing, right? That is what fractals tell you. Break bar, boss can't fight back. That's not a good lesson for a player who's looking to get better at the game, right? Like, that's not going to help players actually understand how the game works, how to dodge, how to use defensives, right? How to interact with these mechanics. It won't do that. And I think that this is a bit of an issue overall. I think this probably might not even be enough, right? This is going to sound really crazy, but to be honest, like, bosses are still going to be very, very... they're going to die very quickly. Maybe not so much in pugs, but they still will die fast. And that is not ideal. I think we could even see hit point increase. I think they've never done this before, but I would be very interested to see what would happen if they actually buffed some of the bosses. Thing is, they'll never do this because the content's already quite unpopular, and if they make it harder, it will make it less popular. This might actually make it less popular because it's making it harder, right? It's going to be very interesting to see what ArenaNet do if they keep pushing in this direction and making the content a bit more engaging and more challenging. But yeah, there you go. That's kind of my take on Exposed. I do think that what they need to be very careful of is they need to preserve this idea that you want to have this very technical understanding of when to break the bar, right? Like, what break bars are here for is, oh, you know, you want to coordinate your burst, right? You want to save abilities. You want to save CC to go through the fight and break each bar sequentially, right? You want to have a plan, right? It makes it very technical, makes it very strategic, and that's what the high-level players love about this. So I think they need to make sure that that's still intact. You know, the Fractal community can probably give some feedback on that to see, oh, yeah, it's just not worth breaking the bar. Is it even worth breaking the bar anymore? If that isn't the case in a speedrun environment, then yeah, this is obviously not quite right and things need to be adjusted here. Because in a way, this is a bit of a band-aid fix. And this is, I think, what some of the Fractal players are a little bit upset about, is that, say you want to break the bar on a Renegade, right? If you swap to Staff, well, that's a big DPS loss, right? Is that going to be worth it now? I think Souls thinks it might not be sometimes, actually. In fact, you know, he's I think he thinks the new build from Renegade is going to be a staffless, right? You just play basically the Condy build everywhere, instead of going with the power build, because like going to staff is just going to punish you really hard. So ultimately, in a way, like old Exposed combined with significantly higher hit points actually might be the way to go, right? Like that might be a better design thing. I think the way to go about this would actually be going for tier 5. Right, and maybe even making like the CMs harder, but they can't make the CMs harder. I don't know. ArenaNet's in trouble here, basically. The game's really power crept. The game is way too vulnerable to burst damage, and the game is hard. Like, it's interesting to see them move in this direction, but they've got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of work to do to try and actually make this work, right? And make it satisfy everyone. Ultimately, I think they're trying to push fractals a bit closer to what strikes and raids are, so there's more similarity between all of them, and that's going to upset the speedrunners. A lot of the speedrun types, they are very used to this idea that the bosses aren't even bosses. They're like golems that you have to kill as fast as possible. And it's really hard. What do you say to a player like that? Because I think that's bad design, right? But here's the problem. They play fractals and they enjoy that. This change almost makes it... This change makes fractals less fractally, right? It's a change that makes it better designed at the expense of the players who play the content the most. And that is a really, really interesting philosophical discussion to have. Is that a good decision? Is that good? Should you make the game better designed at all costs? Or is it actually more important that the game is fun and that the players who enjoy that content continue to enjoy it? It's a very interesting question, I think. And I'll probably try and have a chat with some Fractal players later this week, actually, to discuss that very thing. To discuss that very topic. They fixed a bunch of bugs. Nice. I love it. It feels so good. And now we have these catalyst changes coming in. I'll be very brief here because I actually talked about this in a previous video. Go watch that one. But basically, they made the auto attacks in the second skill do significantly more damage, as you can see here. What does this do? Well, it makes it way easier to play and just increases the damage overall on every hammer build. Okay? Every hammer build, bear in mind. So that's the full DPS and the boon DPS. So quickness build, basically. Get better from this. Now, you do lose a little bit of damage on the spheres, but they've obviously added it back on the weapon skills, and they added it. They also added it back on the grand finale, which is when you pew, 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 fire out the orbs. And they also made the Shattering Ice do more DPS too. You can see here that you proc it every 1 second now, and the coefficient is up to 0.6. So it's more reliable to proc it, and the coefficient is higher, right? Like the interval has gone up by 4 times, but the power coefficient by 6 times. So you're going to get a significant DPS increase from the utility there as well. So that's pretty good stuff. You get Empowered Empowerment back, so you get way more stats now in PvE when you're maxed out. So it's 50%, now it's 100%. That's actually pretty significant, right? Like, you know, that means that you get 20% all stats, which is that's a lot of stats, right? For a full DPS. But obviously you don't take this if you're giving quickness because you take the other one. But I've got to say, the really big change here is actually to these orbs. I think this is really cool from a role. I love this from a roleplay perspective. So these abilities here, the Rocky Loot, Crescent Wind, Icicle, and Flame Wheel, those are the little orbs you summon on the hammer, hammer 3. And the duration is now 15 seconds. And whenever you activate one, it refreshes all the others, right? So that means you can get 60 seconds, assuming you do one after the other, right? You activate one sequentially. 60 seconds of this. And of course, let's imagine that you use the Flame one first, right? So let's suppose that we do this. That means that you get a 10% damage buff permanently, right? Because the cooldown on these things is 15 seconds. So basically, you can charge them all up, unleash them after 60 seconds, and then boom, you can just restart, right? Because they have a 15-second cooldown, and that means that you can actually stack them up very, very quickly, right? And then hold them for a very, very long time. So you can have a huge damage buff just all the time. But that's not the only thing that's really interesting here. Notice the damage reduction here too. This is really, really big. Elementalist players, they're often, they don't like the class is very, very squishy and it's quite vulnerable. You get a near permanent 15% damage reduction to power and Condi. Now, not only is that great for open world, that's actually amazing for raids and fractals and stuff like that. That's a huge deal. One of the most powerful things about Scourge is that it actually has the same thing, right? Every shade gives you a 5% damage reduction. Now, Catalyst obviously has a lot less health and doesn't really have barrier, but you actually have a good defensive. You have a block on Hammer 4, right? Immutable Stone, I believe is what it's called. You also have extra stats, so you get more vitality and more toughness from having your buff, the Elemental Empowerment, right? And you have the Jade Orb, right? The Jade Core. So you actually have a bunch of extra vitality built in because of Ender Dragons. This actually makes this build pretty tanky now, actually. 15% damage reduction. You slap that on with, say, a damage reduction food or a lifesteal food, right? You got prot up, right? Because you can apply protection to yourself. This is a pretty attractive setup now for Catalyst. Now, the damage, I think, will end up being pretty solid after this, too, because you get more modifiers, right? You have better Grand Finale, better auto attacks, better second skill. The second skill's the big one here. Like, you typically, the way the rotation works, you kind of, like, chain the second skill into your next attunement. So this is going to be good value out of using all of these weapon skills here for sure, because you can see that just the coefficients are up, and they're up in a pretty big way, right? 0.9 to 1.1, 1.2, 1.4. Some good damage here. I think this build's going to end up performing really well, actually. There are a few builds that are exciting. I think the DPS build's going to work out pretty well here. I think that the quickness build will be good too as well. The heal build is going to be good, although that was already good. Didn't really need any more changes. And more interestingly enough, I think the quickness boon build is going to be quite good too. That seems like a pretty exciting build because you can do quickness, might, fury, prot, vigor, resolution, swiftness, right? All of that while also doing some damage there. That's actually a pretty compelling build if you ask me, like providing some decent uptimes of all of those boons while doing damage. That's actually pretty good. It's a bit like Boon Herald, but it's also got quickness, right? And Boon Herald was a really good build, right? Before it kind of got nerfed down to 5 targets. Still not bad, right? But that's pretty good. Also means it actually kind of fills a spot that not a lot of builds fill right now, and that's the offensive buffer, right? Because a lot of builds have, like, they do damage, and then they give quickness and maybe, like, uptime of another boon. But Catalyst is going to be able to do damage, quickness, and quite a lot of boons. Like, every boon except Stab, Aegis, and Alacrity. That's pretty impressive. That's not bad. The one thing that's missing for me here is that I think I'd like to see Spectacular Sphere, which is the Grandmaster Orb trait, also make the orb bigger. Right, because right now the radius for all the boons you apply is very small, and it's static, right? And it has to pulse to get value out of it, so if you move, it's really annoying. So I think I'd like to see the radius increased with a trait. You could even split it so it only increases the radius in PvE, right? I think 240 is a little on the small side because it's not easy to land, right? Like, it's okay on Spectre because it's, you immediately apply the boons. With this, you're going to have to wait 5 seconds to apply the boons with a 15-second cooldown. So I think there needs to be a little bit of usability fixes to Catalyst. The other one is you could make the orb follow you, but I'm not a big fan of that, actually. I think that makes it a little too passive. I like the idea that you've got to at least think about it, right? You've got to think about putting it down, right? Catalyst, you can just blast your lightning field, guys, to get AoE swiftness because you have a lightning field and loads of blast finishes. You don't play arcane, right? You play on the boon build. It would be fire, air, and then catalyst, and you just blast the lightning field, right? So put your quickness field down, then blast, and you'll get AoE swiftness, right? And you'll play this build with very high boon duration, so you should be able to sustain that fairly well. There you go. Boom. Hell yeah. Enjoy. Enjoy the memes. Big blast finisher, big wombo combos, right? But yeah, I think these are some good changes. Good damn changes to Catalyst. I think the Ellie mains are going to be very happy with that, and I honestly expect to see Catalyst work out pretty well looking at that. I genuinely do. You know, big props to ArenaNet to coming up with a good solution. I think this is a good design solution. It makes it so the hitbox thing isn't a problem, not a headache anymore. It's tankier. It does more damage. It's got more usability. It's easier to play now, right? So it's easy to get into, right? Yeah. And I think that they've given it a very powerful role. Like, the only concern I have is that it overlaps with Tempest a lot, right? Like, Tempest basically does, it's like almost the same build at this point. They're very similar, kind of like a melee, brawler, boon, DPS, heal, support build. So I think that there's design overlap there, which is a bit lame, to be honest. But, I mean, honestly, they can't really fix that unless they redesign Catalyst, which is obviously not going to happen at this point. A few other things happen here. Searing Pact. Yeah, looks like the old version of Searing Pact was still here. Basically, this trait used to be like a trade-off trait for Worldbender, so you like get more damage, but you got more boon duration, right? But you couldn't apply boons to allies, which, you know, it was still there, apparently, which is quite funny, actually. There you go. They fixed some bugs. You get a Spectre, and apparently the Spectre is really strong when you summon Thieves Guild on Spectre, by the way, which is pretty juicy. And interesting. You know, I kind of like this with Bladesworn. You know what? I think this is good. Okay? So they've buffed the Gunsaber skills, basically. They've reduced the cooldowns a lot on the Gunsaber abilities for Bladesworn in PvE only. And I like that. I think that the build being entirely based around Dragon Trigger, actually, not that much fun. Right? I'm not a warrior main, but I've heard a lot of complaints that the build kind of feels a bit like, oh, right? Because you have to, just like be sitting there and, going for that stuff. But I like it. I like the way they're going this. I like the way they're going with this and making the Gunsaber more of like an active component of it. I think I'd probably like to see this made better, right? I'd like to see these skills be better and do more damage, and then maybe the Dragon Trigger do less damage. I know that it's fun and it's like a mega one-shot ability, stuff like that, but I like the idea that it's a really dynamic spec, right? Because in PvP, it actually is. It's very mobile, right? You don't, like, sit there charging the entire thing up. You're leaping around, firing your Gunsaber off. Like, that looks really exciting. I was watching Boyce play it, and it actually looks really exciting with the way it plays out there. So I think that would be kind of cool for PvE, right? Would be kind of cool. But that's everything for PvE, so nothing crazy. Bear in mind, this was a PvP and World vs. World patch, right? So bear that in mind, right? It's not a PvE patch. There's just like a few little tweaks, bit of polish here, a little bit of memes, a little bit of content, a little bit of juice, right? Okay. So yeah, there we go. And the breaks there, that's kind of nice too. You can like teleport around a little bit more in PvE. That's kind of cool. But let's go to World vs. World. Let's go now. This is a big one. This is a big one. Winds of Disenchantment. cmcW in the chat. Reduced incoming boon duration. Reduced from 100% to 33% in World vs. World only. That is massive. Insane. This is an interesting change. I think this is designed to say, we want to really nudge this. We want to really kind of shove this out of the meta, right? It's been meta for years since it got added to the game, right? It was honestly the defining skill of World vs. World. So obviously, it turns out that in World vs. World, if you lose your stability or resistance, you're sad as fuck, right? If you can't get out then because you can't get more stability, you just get chain CC, chain emote, you just die horribly, right? Because you can't get boons. So this ability was unbelievably good, right? Get your wins, you grab well it, you blast it, you go hard. Now, the effect is actually still good, right? Like the actual mechanic, reducing incoming boon duration, is actually still a very powerful mechanic here. And I think, you got to bear that in mind here. It's not bad. But is it enough to really take it as an elite skill? It's a good question. Bear in mind, it doesn't just do this effect. It also removes boons, right? It pulse removes 1 boon every second in a large AoE. It blocks projectiles, which is actually relevant too, because projectiles, you know, like, hey, who likes projectiles? In addition to that boon reduction effect. So bear in mind, that's still going to be, if you get 10 seconds to stab, you only get 7 seconds now, or like more like 6.6 seconds. Is that very good? Honestly, not really. Like, application is very high in World vs. World. You kind of like keep refreshing your boons really, really quickly. Like, more stab, more might, more everything, right? There's this massive tug of war, right? Like, apply boons, remove boons, apply boons, remove boons, apply, remove, apply, remove. There's a lot going on there, right? So it's not that good anymore for that, but it still does have that. But it just makes it more sane, right? Like, this is a more balanced version of this. I think you could nudge it. You could make 50%. Right? You could say 50%. You could maybe even do 66%. The main issue with this skill is that you could not get boons at all. Okay? And that, like, even if it was like 90%, that will be huge. Right? It's so different. Like, the threshold where you go from like 90 to 100% duration is impactful. Right? Like, because it means that even if you got like 2 seconds of stab, right, from a Guardian giving it to you, you can still get out, right? But if you don't get any stability or any resistance, then you're trapped. You cannot get out of like a bomb inside a bolt or a grav well or an immobilizer. You cannot get out with this stuff. So anything lower than 100 is honestly way more sensible and could probably be made to be balanced, I think, from a World vs. World perspective. Particularly seeing as, again, it has projectile block, it has the AoE boon removal, it synergizes with the Spellbreaker Grandmaster trait, which is enchantment collapse, which means every time you remove a boon with a 1-second internal cooldown, it also removes another boon AoE, right? So it's more like 2 boons a second AoE. Again, that's a pretty good skill. But in a way, this is good, right? This is actually good design here. Because guess what, guys? Oh, even if you don't run wins, well, that's not that bad, is it? Because Warrior actually has another pretty good elite skill. It's Battle Standard, which is a revive and also a stomp. That's kind of fun, by the way. Because obviously in World vs. World, downstate management is really important, particularly in GVG, right? Like GVG style stuff. Where you want to get stomps, you want to get these revives, get these rallies, right? You know, like Illusion of Life, Signet, right? These are really key abilities that can turn the tides in a World vs. World battle. And the fact that Warrior can maybe afford to take this and not kind of look like a meme, right? Because again, like previously, there's no way you take Banner over wins a lot of the time anyway, right? I can't imagine any time you would, unless you were playing non-Spellbreaker, obviously. But that's a pretty cool skill. And it's interactive, it's exciting, right? You know, it's like, oh yeah, get the stomp, get the big stomp with the banner, right? Ranged banner, big res. I think it's a fun skill. I like it. So I hope that ends up seeing some more play, and I think it could. Or at least there'll be a trade-off, right? You're going to think about it. Like, maybe you want wins. Maybe you want more boon removal. Maybe you want to go for the revive power, right? Maybe you want to go for the stomping, right? Like, ooh, that's interesting, right? That's kind of an interesting decision. Like, if it moves in that direction, I think that's fun. Yeah, it's still a good skill, so maybe that doesn't happen, but listen, I'm blue sky thinking here, guys, okay? I'm blue sky thinking. And I just want to say this about Spellbreaker, guys. Spellbreaker is not dead from this, to be clear. And again, maybe I'm wrong, and Garfield will correct me. He's obviously big into World vs. World. He can tell you. But Spellbreaker is not just a good class because of Bubble. Obviously, that's a really big part of it and why it's so dominant, but Warrior also has really good other boon rip options like Break Enchantments. Whenever you do a CC, thanks to a minor trait, you remove a boon, which again can proc Enchantment Collapse and more AoE removal, right? There's a lot going on there with Warrior, not just this. You can cleanse people, right? Like, you know, very effectively too, right? You know, you have AoE Endurance. You can be a support build with Warhorn and heal people with a Shout Heal, right? You have great CC. You have great cleave damage on Greatsword, right? It's not just this, right? Like, it's still a good class, right? It's still a good build to play and will have some value in the World vs. World environment. So don't worry, Warrior fans. You're probably not going anywhere. But it's going to make it less mandatory, right? Okay? It's going to be less, if you're not running Warriors, you're going to get memed, right? Like, you're going to get dabbed on, right? By having the wins run at you. So it's good. You'll have an option, right? Maybe you want to run Mesmers for Boon Rip. Maybe you want to run Necros. Maybe you want to run fucking Virtuoso. I wish. Okay? Whatever, right? That's good. It's good. Like, this is the skill that has dominated World vs. World since its inception. I love to see it being changed. Good. What's Catalyst benching? Hell yeah. 39.2k. That's about right. That's where we want to see it. Yeah. That's good. Huh. The devs already did their homework on that one. Obviously, this is an early rotation. I imagine once he practices more, he'll be able to get 40k DPS on this build. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But there you go, a little update on that. Live update. Yeah, 39k, pretty tanky build. All right. That's pretty good. Good survivability. Yeah, you got Defiant Stance, right, which is like a god tier survivability skill. Full counter on a short cooldown, right? You can do loads of damage on it, and you can connect your damage. Yeah, you're good at connecting damage in a way that other classes aren't because of your durability that you have baked into Warrior. So, to be honest, correct me if I'm wrong, Warrior seems balanced after this, right, from a World vs. World perspective. Great. Again, I think you could even see a buff to this. I think you could maybe say 50%, and it would still be okay. Maybe even more than 50. But yeah, great. With the big nerf to Wind's Disenchantment, we also wanted to include some effects to support the Spellbreaker build. Vigorous Shouts and Call of Valor are also being enhanced in PvP as we look to make Support Warrior more competitive with Guardian and Tempest support builds. Hammer also gets a slight tune-up, with increases some of its damage and reductions to its crowd control cooldowns. Ooh, spicy. So the heal attribute is from 0.5 to 0.75 in PvP only, and the scaling in World vs. World is 1 to 1.2, and we've got 0.8. Wow, the barrier is huge. 0.8 to 1.2. That's, whoa, 50% increase. And barrier from 1 to 1.2 in World vs. World. Ooh, whoa, that's actually really good. That's a fucking strong buff, actually. Holy shit. Wow. Yeah, 3 Condis now as well in PvP. So 3 Condis. And you have 50% more barrier and shout heal up by 50%. Poof. That's a very significant nerf. Now, bear in mind, Aena's done a pretty good job with supports, actually. I spoke to Zeromis after the show match, and he actually thinks that Tempest and Guardian are actually about the same now, right, in PvP. So, that's kind of fun. Does this take Warrior up to that level? I think it's actually pretty close. In that case, because that is a big deal. That's a lot of healing. And the really good thing about Warrior in PvP, it's very survivable, right? It's very tanky, actually, the support build, because you have full counter, right? You play sword, right? So you can leap around. It's a very durable build, as it turns out. So this does give an advantage. It can survive quite nicely. Like Tempest and Guardian can be surprisingly vulnerable, right? And it's also quite mobile too, right? It can like leap around with the sword. It's quite fast. We saw Goku on Worms play this to very great effect. Actually, he was able to very quickly rotate around the map and kind of take these 2v2s and 3v3s. And funnily enough, this leans a little bit into the meta right now. The meta is very skirmishy. I mean, well, Spectre's a little overtuned, but because of that, right, you end up with a lot of 2v2s and 3v3s, which is exactly where Warrior excels. Funny enough, it does really well in those fights because of how fast it is and how good it is at kind of like surviving and peeling for itself. So that's pretty interesting stuff, actually. I could definitely see Warrior starting to see some play there. Like, extra Cody Cleanse by 50% is huge, and way more healing and barrier. I could see that seeing play in PvP, for sure, actually. And honestly, would you even play Hammer? I mean, Hammer is fun too, like loads more damage here. Because actually, Misha experimented with playing Hammer in PvP, actually. It's kind of like a enabler weapon. It's actually what Tempest does really well. Because Tempest has focus offhand, and you use that for Gale, right? It's like really key, like bam, offensive ability to enable. And Misha was doing the same thing with Hammer, right? Like to enable the DPS players by landing big crowd control abilities like Backbreaker, Staggering Blow, right? All that kind of stuff. And you play with Avatar Amulet, right? So you actually have power and precision on supports in PvP right now. So the power scaling here is actually relevant. Here it's like another 25% damage on these approximately. That's actually relevant for these gamers. It can hit pretty darn hard. Now, will you see Hammer on other builds? Probably not that much. I mean, Ajax will probably play it, but maybe not anyone else. But yeah, there you go. Is this going to see play? Is the support build for Warrior going to be competing with Scrapper in World vs. World? Probably not. In fact, I kind of want to say definitely not. I don't want to give you guys any hopium here. I think Scrapper and Tempest is still going to outperform it. Specifically Scrapper. Tempest, it has like a niche utility option. Obviously, like it's very, very good for the revival power and the tornado and stuff like that. But yeah, Scrapper and Tempest, they're still going to be on top for World vs. World. So Spellbreaker, if they want to make like a support warrior better, they're probably going to look at the tactics trait line and maybe like juice it up a little bit and give it like a bit more support to really make it compete. And then obviously nerf down Scrapper and Tempest a bit potentially. Although maybe not Tempest, but who knows. And yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of players might be a bit confused by this. So they have actually nerfed the might that you get for channeling up your. Basically, it's when you convert flow into charges, you gain might stacks. It was 2 stacks, and now it's 1 in PvP. It's funny. A lot of people go, "Wait, Bladesworn isn't OP. Why is it getting nerfed?" Well, Bladesworn is weird because it's actually a really strong build. It's just that Spectre is just dominating the meta right now. A lot of other kind of OP builds are shoving poor old Bladesworn out of the meta right now. So this build was actually really fucking strong. It was very sustainy. It had a huge amount of damage output at range as well. And it still is, by the way. Okay, it still is very strong, as it turns out. And I imagine that this is going to be a nerf, but not the end of the universe. You're going to get a lot less might, obviously, and that's, hey, unlucky, I guess. But it's still going to hit damn hard, right? The gun saber hits hard. It's going to blast. It's still going to have all the shout heal stuff, all the support. It will still be good. Honestly, I would, after the really OP stuff like Mech and Spectre get nerfed, I think you could honestly start seeing Bladesworn at high-level play. You already see it at high-level ranked, right? But competitive play, I think that once a lot of the other kind of really, really oppressive builds, yeah, you could see Bladesworn. It's very, very powerful. Both as a duelist, but also as a team fight presence as well. It does a lot, right? It's hard to kill. It supports. It's very hybrid, right? It's got loads of healing, AoE might, AoE cleanses for the team. It heals itself really well, right? It's quite mobile. It can leap around. It does great damage at ranged as well, by the way, of course, with the gun saber and the dragon trigger. It's a very powerful build for PvP. I would not be surprised at all to see, but it needs other things to get nerfed first, right? Like it's the meta right now is it's corrupted by the disease of Spectre. But there it is. That's for Warrior. Ooh, and Scrapper. We'll talk about Mech first, actually. So, Jade Mech stat inherits by 20% for all stats and PvP only. Ooh, ouch. You know what? Do you know what the problem with Mech is? The problem with Mech is weirdly enough, it's kind of the alacrity uptime that causes it a lot of problems. The alacrity is the big deal. Because it enhances, like, the really, really fucking good core NG stuff to another level. Right? It really does. Specifically, the shield toolkit. Because you play this kind of, like, bunkery, jewelry build on mech right now. And the reason it's oppressive is because you can just rotate through shield 5, right? Mortar kit bullshit, right? Your stun breaks, right? Your sustain, your healing, right? Like over and over and over and over and over and over again. I think the signets being eternal too, like, yeah, like you have permanent signet up, rectifier signet with a ridiculously short cooldown because of the alacrity, right? And you can just have that passive healing up all the time, right? It's kind of an unhealthy build the way it plays out right now. So I think I'd like to see some changes to the alacrity as well. This makes the mech easier to kill, and that will obviously make it, significantly less damage output and easy to kill in the team fight as well. But yeah, the really big problem is actually just the alacrity uptime. I think that's the thing that's making it feel really unfun, really oppressive actually, is that the alacrity is fucking it up. So I'd like to see some changes to that. And to be honest, I think we will see some actually, like, because, well, I'll give you guys a spoiler alert here. One thing that doesn't get changed is actually Spectre, right? Spectre doesn't get touched at all, right? During all of this. Bonus meme. So yeah, they probably are going to do that very soon. I expect more nerfs to Mech and Spectre, actually. Definitely Spectre. Spectre is pretty wild right now. But anyway, how about Scrapper? Here we go. So, gyroscope acceleration, super speed duration down from 3 to 1.5, speed of synergy, AoE super speed from 5 to 3, kinetic accelerators, quickness from 2.5 to 1.5, medical dispersion field 25% to 15% in World vs. World only, and purity of purpose cooldown is up from 2 to 3 in World vs. World only. This, okay, these nerfs are pretty big, and it kind of goes to show you, and I'm looking at that right now, it's not going to make Scrapper bad. And that speaks volumes to how strong I think Scrapper really is in World vs. World. Like, you're not going to have this kind of uber uptime of super speed anymore, from, like, spamming the heal skill, from spamming all your gyros, right? You're not going to have as much perma-quickness. Honestly, perma-quickness is weird in World vs. World. You actually have, like, really high uptime of quickness because of this kinetic accelerator trait. It was like a PvE change, right? That also made it really good in World vs. World, made it even better in World vs. World. Actually, because basically whenever you apply super speed, you apply quickness, right? And that meant that would, This combined with Firebrand was like really high uptime and quickness, as it turns out, which is probably not good to have that. A little unhealthy there, and that's being hit pretty hard there. No, the interesting thing about super speed, though, yeah, and this is what people are going to point out, and they're absolutely right here, is that this actually rewards you for using your super speed well. And what do I mean by that? Well, super speed stacks in duration. So if you want to go, boom, burst of speed, you can like pop a few gyros and, you know, proc speed of synergy, and then bam! Right, you can get that boost of speed. You're just not going to have it permanently. Super speed is very, very strong in World vs. World because mobility is so important, like chasing enemies down, disengaging, right, quickly dodge rolling to the left or to the right. So super speed is actually god tier utility, and Scrapper is one of the few things that really has a good ability to actually apply it, right, in World vs. World. So reducing the uptime is actually a very, very good change in my opinion, and does a lot to make Scrapper a bit more balanced and kind of bring it more in line with other supports. And I think nerfs are the way to go here. Like, Scrapper is overtuned rather than other supports being undertuned as such. They're obviously, you know, they're kind of the same thing, but like, I think the power level should come down rather than just buffing everything to be ridiculously overpowered. I don't think that's where fun lies, right? So yeah, there you go. The healing change here, they've definitely reduced the healing output here. Like, you know, medical dispersion, what this does means is that half of the healing on yourself, you share out to other people, basically, right? Is what medical dispersion fill does. And obviously that's pretty powerful. But 15% is still good, by the way. It's not bad. That's a good chunk of increase to healing when you take damage. Because obviously, when you take damage in World vs. World, you then kind of heal your allies too, which is great. Turns out that's pretty good. Purity of Purpose, this trait is going to reduce the boon spam. Yeah, boon spam is way too high in World vs. World, just flat out. Okay, it makes the game very weird and scuffed and certainly causes problems. I think that, you know, the good thing here is that the cleanse hasn't really been nerfed. There's a slight nerf to the cleanse, I guess, because if you convert, you have this trait called anti-corrosion plating. Whenever you cleanse, whenever you apply proc, you cleanse a condi. So I guess technically speaking, this is a slight reduction to cleanse because you aren't going to get, you know, you're going to get prot from Voln, which will then cleanse a condi, right? So it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit of a meme there, I guess. But still, it's a good trait. You get loads of free boons from this all the time. Okay, you can fumigate people all over the place, right? You can do your cleansing field. You're having a good time. Scrapper is still really good at World vs. World. Don't worry about it. Very juicy. Okay, Firebrand. Guardian, I guess, more specifically. Here we go. Firebrand is another support build that's too good at a few too many things. The main aspect that we want to bring down is his ability to heal allies. And for this update, we've targeted its passive healing capability via Battle Presence. This will reduce the Firebrand's overall healing output while leaving Tome of Resolve as a higher impact healing option. Battle Presence. They basically halved it in World vs. World. Okay. You know, you might go, wow, what an unusual change. What a weird change. Now, if you want to see why these abilities like this are actually really deceptively strong. Seriously, guys. Get the healing add-on, right? Get the healing add-on. Okay? And then run it in any game mode. Run it in any game mode. And you'll see that stuff like Regen, Battle Presence, and Soothing Mist actually heal a lot. Okay? As in, seriously a lot. You generate a lot of numbers with this. It will often even be top. Stuff like Regen, Battle Presence, and Soothing Mist will often actually be the top components. Now, passive healing in World vs. World isn't really as good as burst healing. And to be honest, Guardian is a little bit of a healer, right? But it's honestly mostly there for boons, right? The reason you take Firebrand, it's like, wow, the healing is so good. The healing is pretty good, right? You know, but it's mostly because you have stability, right? You have might, you have protection, right? You have swiftness, you have the good stuff, right? You have resistance. And of course, the Tome utility, you got some CC, you have the line, right? You have Condi Cleanse, right? From Tome of Resolve. That's what you're going to take it for, really. So nothing the healing, I mean, look, Guardian's still god tier. Now, here is the thing here, right? Here is the thing with this stuff. Is that Guardian is a big problem here. Right? Guardian is a big problem in World vs. World. But that's not because of it specifically. It's more because of the lack of alternatives to it, right? Like, healing, whatever. Like, this is not really a big deal, to be perfectly honest with you, with this getting changed, right? I mean, you know, you know, if people run this, it won't be as good. But I mean, you can just run Indomitable Courage. It's a very, very good trait. It's even like a juicy stun break too. 3 stacks of AoE stab. Nice. Very good. Love to see it. Very nice. But the problem is that nothing else can really apply stability very well, right? Like, you know, that's why it's going to be so strong. Because if you don't have stability in World versus World, you can't really play the game properly. And Guardian is the king of stability. It's actually a problem in PvE as well, by the way, guys, right? Like, in PvE, it's a big problem. It's one of the reasons why Guardian and Rev end up so dominant in Fractals is because they have stability application, which completely cheeses it really, really hard, right? It's pretty good. It's pretty damn good indeed. But yeah. I guess I don't really know what to say about this, really. I don't think this really moves Guardian that much in World vs. World at all, actually. Well, not far, but anyway. And look, the damage on traps, on Dragon Hunters is going down. Procession of Blades, cooldown goes up. Test of Faith, damage going down in World vs. World. Holy Strike. You know, this might seem really weird, actually. Okay, this might seem like a, wait, why are they nerfing staff damage? Well, it turns out that staff on, like, power builds is actually really fucking good. In World vs. World, actually blasts really hard on stuff like Dragon Hunter. You do a lot of damage with this at range, because range damage is obviously really good in World vs. World. So this is actually a significant nerf. This is actually a relevant change, right? Like, that's, yeah, it actually does something with this. Yeah, I mean, DH, weirdly enough, is actually really powerful. You do see Dragon Hunter as a DPS option here. Test of Faith can be absolutely insane. Like, you know, with how much damage it can do, you can be hitting ridiculous numbers with this stuff and just absolutely blasting people insanely hard. So, yeah, it looks like they're nerfing down the damage a little bit. They want to slightly slow down the World vs. World meta. I think the meta's not actually that bad in World vs. World in terms of its speed. It will always be pretty quick because it turns out that 50 people attacking you at the same time, it's hard to survive that no matter how tanky you are and how slow the metagame is. But still, you know, just making a few tweaks there. I think it's also a bit of an interesting change with roaming. There's almost like an element of roaming here, actually, as well, because increasing procession means that they can't proc trap rune as often, so they can't stealth up as much. And, I don't know, is DH really that obnoxious to deal with? I mean, it's kind of annoying to play against, I guess, from a roaming perspective, because it can kind of, like hard one-shot you, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty good. You know, just toning it down. A little tone down here as well, because, yeah, saw a lot of play in GVGs and stuff like that. This is a DPS, and, you know, it's being toned down a little bit. There it is. I'm not sure if it was that problematic. You weren't like stacking like a million DHs, but you know, a little bit of a meme. You know, just tone down a little bit. Righteous Instincts has been a key piece of Power Guardian builds for as long as it's been in the game. Core Power Guardian sees average success in low rank play, but hasn't seen a major player in higher ranks or serious tournament games for a while. While we were looking at updates for Willbender, we flirted with the idea of enhancing Righteous Instincts and saw an interesting option. This is another change we'll be keeping a very close eye to measure the impact, see if it's something we need to reevaluate. Ooh. That is interesting, okay? That is very fucking interesting indeed. 40% crit. This means you can actually get 100% crit, right? Yeah, you definitely can. Is that going to be enough to get some kind of like weird Valkyrie meme going on? Let's think about that. Is it? Because basically you get this crit chance when you have Resolution on you. And you get 10% against burning foes, which is obviously very easy to apply for Guardian. You have loads of burn built into your kit. So you have 50% base crit. Then if you run something like Valkyrie and you have Fury, so you have like 70% crit, could you actually end up running something like Valkyrie on this build and make it actually work? So you have way more vitality, so you're way tankier. Honestly, pretty interesting. Okay? Pretty damn interesting memes. Yeah, well, this is, guys, this is PvP. Yeah, if they added dragon stats to PvP, this would end up being really good, obviously. Okay. I could maybe see that being a really big sustain increase, because the problem with DH, right? Well, honestly, DH, any Guardian build in PvP, is that you have to run Zerka pretty much. Like, you're always running Zerka, because you need to have that power and ferocity to do DPS. And that leaves you very, very squishy. And obviously, for Willbender, like, you're obviously not quite as defensive as other Guardians. That makes it very hard to survive. So, the fact that you could actually get away with a tankier build using the Valkyrie Amulet, with this, that's actually very interesting. That's a big deal, because the problem with Willbender, and honestly a lot of DPS guard builds, they do damage, right? Like, Greatsword hits fucking hard, right? Hammer hits hard. Hell, yeah, Hammer hits hard too. Which is like the very classical Guardian build, right? The Judge's Intervention port, right? With Hammer 2. Hits hard with Glacial Blow. But now, you can be tanky at the same time. That's actually interesting. Like, is Willbender going to see play after this in PvP? I mean, not right now. But I mean, holy shit! They went hard. Okay, on Willbender, they went fucking hard. Okay, flowing resolve, ammo recharge, 30 to 20. That's the F2, the evade, and the healing, and you also get way more base healing on that. You have crashing urge. That's the mega. That's like the mega aegis, and it's a stun break too if you take virtues. Ooh, ooh. That's a very good skill. You're also even faster, right? Because you can use your teleports more. This is a shadow step. This is like a movement skill as well, right? You are fast as fuck, okay, running this stuff. That is actually insane. Mighty Blow cooldown, 6 seconds. You can smash people with a hammer. Zealots and Brace, that's a lot of damage now. 1.2 PvP scaling, actually. Yeah, I guess you don't, you don't have Valor, right? Yeah, that's a good point from Brando here. You don't really have Fury. So you'd be stuck at 50% crit with Resolution. Is that good enough? Maybe. I don't know. I think it's people could experiment with that. I feel like people could experiment with that. It might end up being good. You can always like abuse Intelligence Sigil as well for like some burst damage with a Willbender, and you know try and just like maintain some level of DPS with that, and hope someone else gives you Fury as well. I guess maybe I don't know. It's really hard to compute this, to be honest, but these are some big buffs, right? Like lethal tempo damage is up as well. It can go up to, that's 5 stacks of that for 15% extra damage. Advancing Strike is 2 seconds of a mobile. I think that's actually good. This is like a big enabler. That's Sword 4, I believe. So it's like a good enabling ability now for Willbender to actually land its damage and use its speed to actually connect there as well. Ring of Warding cooldown so you can lock people down. This skill's honestly cancer, by the way. Like, you don't... This skill being meta, no one wants that, right? Like, actually, no one wants this skill to be good. Real. Particularly seeing as you can precast it and port on people with Judge's Intervention. Very annoying skill, but look... Hey, it's got a lower cooldown now as well. They want DPS guard to be good. I mean, I like to see that they're going pretty hard, right? I like that they're going pretty damn hard on trying to make this work and trying to push Willbender as it's kind of Roma, right? I want a high mobility DPS Roma Willbender. That sounds like a lot of fun, like a really cool build actually to play it. So yeah, I like that. And honestly, this trait is, this is a juicer now. 30-second, that's base. Okay, if you have virtues, it will be lower. Yeah? And you can take Indomitable Courage. That's a very short cooldown stun break. A very short cooldown stun break. And it's support. And it gives you stability. And it spams Aegis on you when you, like, attack, right? You'll get Aegis and stab when you start cleaving people down. That's a damn good skill. With an incredibly short cooldown. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Very impressive stuff. Huh. I do like it. You know, I wonder if they want to push it as a DPS in Zergs as well. In World vs. World. Maybe a little bit harder to connect because you get a lot of value out of the traps, right? The traps on DH is like crazy value. Like Longbow can be pretty good too there as well. It's like very, very useful skill just for locking people down and giving that big AoE nuke. Right? But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, now you got to look at it from the other side too. Could this be some kind of like weird defensive 1v1 build as well, with like just crashing courage, really high uptime on that? Because you just get all the Aegis and stab with a very short cooldown. That's actually something to be worried about. You got to keep an eye on that, right? Particularly thing is you can also evade more. You have better evade uptime with flowing resolve, with the ammo recharge being way faster. You get more healing from it initially as well. I mean, what are we looking at here? This could be a little spooky right here. Yeah. Nice. I kind of like it. I want to see how this shakes out. But yeah, they need to keep an eye on this for sure. It could be very scary. They're obviously trying to make it a damage build, but it also might be a meme. Dude, they do, look, and they want you to roleplay, right? They want you to play Heaven's Palm. 20-second cooldown? Now, the problem is that, this is spicy. Because think about this, right? They're going to reduce the cooldowns on the virtues. How low do the cooldowns have to get before renewed focus isn't good? To be honest, I think unbelievably low. Because it turns out that going invulnerable for 3 seconds, like full break from pressure, so you can be re-healed and resustained, and you instantly get all your virtues back, it's pretty fucking good, right? I don't know, like, renewed focus is pretty good. Pretty good skill, guys, for Guardian, because Guardian is very historically cooldown reliant. So being able to reset your cooldowns is quite valuable, right? Heaven's Palm is a fun ability, but is it going to be good here? Probably not, actually. Even with a 20-second cooldown, is it actually good? Ugh. I mean, yeah, maybe like 15 seconds cooldown elite skill. Like maybe then it starts to be good. Oh man, what a meme. What a meme. Anyway, that's got it. I kind of like this. And, you know, honestly, I'm really impressed by these changes, right? They're willing to go pretty hard, right? They're willing to really change things. Inspiring Reinforcement is one of the main outliers in Revenant damage in World War II due to multiple attack regions allowing you to hit a large number of targets. Looking into normalizing some of the target behavior for Inspiring Reinforcement and other similar skills. But for now, we've just brought down the damage a bit more. Yeah, okay. So basically, they're just doing this to make it... These skills are weird, right? Like, this is a very weird ability, because not only does it do a lot of damage, which is, as a support skill, which is a bit unusual, right? Because it gives stability as well. It also applies a huge amount of stab, because you can have allies on different segments of it, and they'll all get stability, just the same as the damage. Skills like this are very unusual. It's a bit of a problem in PvE for the same reason, because it just over-booms you, right? It's like a boon party. Yeah. And they're certainly looking to just reduce the power level a little bit more. You know, it's weird. You know, I don't mind the power level in World vs. World right now, actually. I've been playing a bit, just zerging around. I haven't played GvG, so it's obviously a little more intense there, but just for zerging, I haven't actually found it that oppressive. You know, I think it's not too crazy, right? In terms of what it, you know, of how powerful it is. I think it's about right where it is. You know, we can kind of bring things up, bring things down, right? So I don't really need to go too hard on nerfing stuff, but still, there it is, you know. Even less numbers. Yeah, Rev, take it. Get nerfed. Okay. Elementalist. Catalyst is another one of the Ender Dragon's elite specs that struggle to find its footing in competitive modes. Hammer's circling projectiles are difficult to chain together in a more realistic combat situations, and even when able to do so, the bonuses lacked impact. Increasing the duration should give more flexibility to maintain the projectiles, which also now got more rewarding bonuses. We've also enhanced a few other hammer skills, giving more damage potential to fire attunement and a bit more defense to earth. In addition to the hammer adjustments, we've strengthened a few of the key skills that have brought a power up to the specialization as a whole. So it's a bit similar to PvE, actually. You get 8 seconds on your hammer orbs here, and you get the damage bonus goes up from 5 to 10%. Icy Core, 10% damage reduction to Condies, 10% power damage reduction on Rocky Loop, and then you get 12% crit on Crescent Wind here. Immutable, so that's the block on the 4th skill. You get double the barrier now. That's actually a big sustain increase, to be fair. And, of course, you get a block from that. Ground Pound, that's like the Mega Immobilize on Earth 5. You just do more damage now, right? Blah, 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 blah. Soothing Water, you get more healing on the heal skill. They've reduced the cooldown on the super speed. You can use your block and barrier more. Ooh, Elemental 30, 60 seconds for a full weapon skill refresh on 6-second cooldown. That's pretty good there. 10 seconds on the Jade Sphere. So, if you can fuel the energy for that, that's a lot of boon output. Energized elements, you get, ooh, nice, 2 to 3 energy in PvP in World vs. World. That's a lot of energy. That will certainly help you out, because that means whenever you swap, you gain 3 energy, which is kind of 1/3 of an orb. You need 10 energy for an orb, right? So it's kind of like 30% of an orb. And then oh my god, Ellie dude, CMC, he loves Elementalist. Oh my god, he loves it. Transmute Fire, Frost, Lightning, Earth. 10 seconds to 3-second cooldown in PvP in World vs. World. So we'll just go over these for now, right? This is interesting. These ones are cool, because these skills are actually really good on Tempest. Bear in mind, this is core Ellie. This stuff here, guys, this is core Ellie. Okay, and they talk about, you know, making Dagger a bit better here, and a lot of Dagger skills getting buffed. But here's the thing, okay? Tempest really likes using these because, for example, if you want to play a Condition Cleanse build on Tempest, you'll use Smothering Auras, right? Where you transmute your auras to cleanse Condies, AoE. And this also applies in World vs. World too. So if you're able to consistently apply auras to yourself, you can actually get more AoE cleanses from this. Makes it a bit of a monster. Right? You can do more AoE stunning, more AoE blast finish from protection from Transmute Earth. Now, the thing... I don't know if they could even do this. I guess they could actually, right? The thing that I've always been interested in is, could they make it so you could always transmute the auras, even if you don't have the weapon that applies it? Because right now, you can only transmute fire if you have focus, because it's the one that has fire aura, right? And you can only transmute frost with dagger, offhand, right? And you can only do transmute lightning with main hand dagger, right? Like, I think it would be really interesting if you could always transmute the aura as long as you have some way to apply it. It would be super weird. What would that even look like? How would they even keybind that? It would be so weird. But that would be a really interesting buff, I think, if they could figure out some way to make that make sense and actually do something. But yeah, it could be like an F5 or something weird. to transmute auras somehow. Like, I don't know. It'll be really, I think it'll be complicated. It'll be some weird shit. They're not going to add an action key. That would be very weird to a class there. But I don't know. Maybe they would. Who knows? But this actually is a buff just across the board to every core, every Ellie spec, right? Because you can transmute your auras more often if you're able to apply them. And bear in mind, it's not just weapon skills, right? You can do stuff like leaping through a field, right? You can blast a frost field for AoE frost aura, right? You can, leap through a fire field, right? To get a fire aura, all that kind of stuff, right? You can get these auras not just using the skills, right? There are other ways you can do it. And Ellie has a lot of finishes, and obviously Catalyst has a lot of finishes, right? So you're going to be able to capitalize on that fairly well, which is pretty interesting, I think. And being able to transmute, that's good. Funnily enough, wait, Catalyst can't transmute, can it? Because it doesn't have a... Can it? No, it can't, because it doesn't have a weapon skill where it can transmute. So... unlucky, Catalyst. And that's weird, right? Because it's like the aura spec. It's the aura spec. It's the combo finisher spec to get the auras. The fact that it can't do that, it's so weird with the hammer. Yeah. So I guess you can still do it with, you obviously have the other weapons. Like, you don't have to play hammer on Catalyst, but kind of feels bad that you can't do it on hammer, Because it's the Catalyst weapon. But, you can still do it with your dagger. And you know what, guys? I'm going to tell you guys a secret. I'm going to tell you guys a big secret right now. CMC, and look, I might get in trouble for this, so do not clip this. Do not clip this. CMC is a dagger Ellie simp. That's real. The only reason he even works at ArenaNet in the balance team is so he can make dagger Ellie meta. He's open about this. He actually says this. He said this live. That he wants dagger Ellie to be best in slot every single game, every game mode, no questions asked, dagger Ellie. And we see step 1 in his master plan here. Okay? So focus, and this is a very accurate assessment. Focus has been a preferred offhand weapon of the Elementalist as a dagger for a long time. Dagger, it's failed to keep up with the power level of the game over the years. In this update, we've tuned up a lot of the dagger skills with the goal of making it a more viable option. So, they've doubled the power damage on Ring of Fire, and that's, holy shit. That's pretty good. Fire Grab, damage is going up, cooldown's going down to 20 seconds, Frost Aura, 25 seconds. Transmute Frost, base heal is now 1k, and the scaling is going up in PvP and World vs. World. Cleansing Wave, ooh, loads more healing there. 1.2 to 1.8k, and the attribute scaling is 0.6 to 1.0, and 3 condies. Bear in mind, guys, this ability, if I recall correctly, used to cleanse 1 condi. Now it's 3 conditions. Earthquake is 25-second cooldown, and Ride the Lightning is 25-second cooldown in PvP, and then also Updraft is a 40 to 30-second cooldown in PvP and World vs. World. Now, this is a super interesting one. Oh, God. Is this actually good enough? This actually really pushes it a lot closer, I think, because it's got a lot more sustain. Like, you heal a lot more, right? Like, 50% more approximately on the cleansing wave and more scaling. So if you ran this on, even a support build, right, it would end up being a lot more healing there, too, because you'd get the scaling, right? Then you have the extra Condi cleanse as well. It's AoE Condi cleanse as well, by the way, okay? The Transmute Frost is going up here as well, and you can see what this ability is, okay? It's an AoE heal. Right? AoE heal, 5 targets, gives regen, right, from your Frost Aura when you transmute it there as well. Right, you violently explode your Aura. That is, again, on Dagger Offhand. Exactly, Dagger Offhand can use this. And you can use it more because Frost Aura cooldown is going down, which is damage reduction, bear in mind, guys. That's a 10% damage reduction there. Now, I do want to be a little bit of a boring gamer here. Focus is fucking god tier. Gale, unblockable CC, very long knockdown, at range, with a quick animation, amazing combo enabler for your team, okay? Obsidian Flesh, god tier defensive, Swirling Winds, god tier defensive, Magnetic Surge, god tier defensive, Comet, god tier defensive, right? The abilities on Focus are fucking good, right? They're real good, actually. And I don't see you playing Dagger on Tempest on the support build. Okay? Yeah, you have the fire synergy as well with the fire aura too. Dagger offhand on Tempest? I don't think so. Maybe Cran will try it. Like, he's a god. He can make anything work. You know, Cran and Grim will have a go. But could this be Catalyst Dagger? Could that be the direction we're going? Because think about it. The original Dagger Ellie was core, right? And Catalyst is kind of like core plus. Right? So I think that's the direction it's going to be going. So like a Dagger Catalyst build. I mean, look, you have a good amount more sustain on that, right? Like you have way more healing. Like you can transmute your aura, you can do AoE cleanse. You have your CCs. You're a bit more mobile too with Ride the Lightning. And this trait is also notable. If you actually hit someone with this, you halve the cooldown, so you can be very much like very very sticky, right? Like if you charge at someone with Ride the Lightning, then boom, right? You can then you'll get like it will be 12-second cooldown, right? You're able to keep chasing people down with this if you want to, and you're very, very fast. So that's pretty interesting, actually. Yeah, could I see this actually being good? Yes. Probably not now. Is Catalyst still bad? Yes. Yes, it is, guys. I hate to be boring there and hate to bring the real talk here, but are these changes going to be enough to make Catalyst good right now in PvP? No. I don't think so, actually, because Catalyst is definitely one of the weaker Ender Dragon's elite specializations. I do like the direction they're pushing in, though. I kind of like how hybrid everything's turning out. It's a bit like Blade Sword, right? It's a hybrid damage dealer. If you took Dagger offhand, you're cleansing your team, right? You're enabling combos with Earthquake to CC people, right? That's a pretty interesting playstyle, right? Like they're reducing the sphere cooldown so you can apply boons to your allies more often, right? You can get more energy quickly by rapidly swapping attunements. You can... Okay. All right. I kind of see it. If they keep nudging it in this direction, I think it could end up being good pretty easily. I think the sleeper change here is actually Ring of Fire. I feel like this ability is going to hit pretty damn hard now, actually. Particularly with all the extra stats you get from Catalyst, actually. So there you go. There you go. But no, does this really change much for Ellie? Not really, but I think you might start to see people try and mess around with like Catalyst there as well. From, like a Dagger Catalyst there. Will Hammer ever be good? I mean, maybe. I kind of want Hammer to be good. Hammer's like a really fun weapon, I think, for team fights and stuff like that. But I do think that it will be very difficult to justify it because you need to be survivable somehow. And I don't think Hammer really delivers the survivability. I mean, you have a bit of healing on the water skills, like with the leap and the 5th skill for the cleanse, but I don't think it can really... You need those defensives, right? And they've tried to buff them a little bit here with Fortified Earth, right? And to reduce the core on the block. And you get a bit more barrier on Hammer as well, right? And the healing's a bit better on the Catalyst heal skill, but... I'm very, very skeptical about Hammer, to be honest, for PvP. I don't see it. Dagger Catalyst, on the other hand, though, I think there's definitely some potential there, particularly with, like, these pretty big sustain increases here. And also, it's a support element there with that, the offhand cleanse, too. It's good. You know what's really funny? I really miss playing Dagger Tempest in World vs. World, okay? Look. Some of you guys are going to remember this, but this was the comp that I ran with my lads in World vs. World in Heart of Thorns. You would actually run Porcupine comp, okay? Every subgroup, you'd have Shattered Aegis Guardian, then you'd have a Reaper, right? Sally Reaper. Then you'd have a Condi Rev. But, why do you do that? Well, here's why. Because it turns out that Rev and Necro have abilities that proc when you apply Chill, right? And you know what applies Chill? Yeah, Frost Aura. So what you would do, right, is you would have Tempests spamming Frost Aura on your entire squad. So that means whenever anyone hit your squad, they'd get 2 Torment from the Rev, 3 Bleeds, 3 Vuln, okay, from the Necro, right? Then obviously get the Chill baseline in there, and then you get the retaliation damage and the AoE burning from, like, the Fire Aura and the Shattered Aegis, with Permeating Wrath, by the way, okay? That was such a fun time, man. Like, you would literally run at the enemy Zerg, and they would just blow up, right? They'd oh, it's so good. It's a fucking meme right there. But yeah. It is a meme indeed, that's for sure. Yeah, Misha did try Dagger. That's actually a good point. That's a good call, actually, to bring that up. Yeah, Misha did try and play Dagger support Tempest, although it didn't work very well. In fact, it was really bad. Yeah. But yeah, there you go. Not exactly good. But yeah, I think there's actually one thing over here from the updraft too. is that this is actually an evasion skill that actually does give Dagger a bit more sustain, because when you use it, you get a little evade frame, so you can use that as a defensive. That's definitely nice for Dagger 2, just helping it survive a bit more. And it's CC, right? You got a lot of CC from Earthquake and Upcraft, so Dagger, keep an eye on that, I think. Maybe not quite there yet. You know, maybe some other tweaks need to come through to some of the other weapons or to Dagger again, but there's potential here, right? There's a lot of potential. Fire Grab hits hard as well. If you can actually land this with, like, against a Burning Foe, you wreck people. It's a very short cooldown now, you know, it really is. It's a short damn cooldown. But yeah, oh, look, speak of the devil. Grimjack has arrived, and yeah, just for those who know, his stream title when he raided here was Catalyst is still unplayable, which is a little sad, but hey, at least Tempest is good, okay? Tempest looking good right now. Hell yeah. All right, then. So, now we can move on to Mesmer. Virtuoso. Virtuoso's dagger only brings damage to the table, but the numbers weren't very threatening, and they're getting increases across the board. Rounding out the Virtuoso changes this update is a set of cooldown reductions on some of its key defensive skills. I actually think this is good, to be honest, because Virtuoso, it definitely has problems surviving, right? Like, a lot of kind of DPS Mesmer builds in general end up very squishy, right? Mirage is very squishy. Power Mesmer, like Core or Chronomancer, is very, very squishy. So Virtuoso having some better defensives will definitely kind of help it fill that DPS role while also surviving. It's something you'll notice about a lot of DPS builds. They have very powerful defensives, right? Stuff like Herald has Staff, it has Glint Heal, right? Thief has Stealth and can disengage very effectively, right? Necromancer has Shroud. Holosmith has Shield and Elixir S, right? Like, to function as a DPS build in the current meta, you need to have some kind of defensive. Some good defensive cooldowns, otherwise you're really going to struggle to... You're just going to struggle to survive. You're just going to die, right, basically, and just get focused down and nuked. So you need defensives. And looking at that is really... It's a good thing to look at. They're also increasing the damage as well by the looks of this. So, Flying Cutter, damage is going up. That's the auto attack, I believe. Okay, on Dagger. I don't think you actually run Dagger right now on Virtuoso. I'm not sure if you would either. I think Sword tends to be like really good utility. You have the mobility. You have the little blur as well on Blurred Frenzy. It's pretty handy stuff there as well. It's pretty good content. But anyway. So now we kind of look at these Blade songs, right? Like, so... The Blade Song cooldowns are going down here, specifically Blade Turn Requiem, 20-second cooldown. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a pretty spicy fucking meme. And Blade Renewal. So Blade Renewal cooldown, what's this? You get max blades and you get distortion for 3 seconds. That's now a very powerful cooldown. That's a 60-second cooldown. A 40-second cooldown on a very potent defensive. That's a significant buff because it also recharges your blades, allowing you to kind of retaliate, right? You can pew, 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 pew. You can retaliate. And you also have blatant 20-second cooldown on this. This is a very good skill too. Right? It's, it's a very short cooldown with this. I believe the duration goes up as well if you have the illusions trait, if I'm not mistaken, by the way. And that means you get like a 3-second block every 17 seconds with illusions, potentially. Ooh, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good, by the way, guys. I mean, honestly, even at 30, that's not horrible. Right? Oh, it doesn't? Wait, I thought there was a trait that interacted with it. Isn't there some way to make it 3 seconds? Or is it not? Right, I thought there was a way it could be upgraded. Or am I just wrong here? It does or it doesn't? Am I right or am I wrong, guys? Tell me if I'm just horribly wrong. But I thought it increased the block duration by 1 second. If you take the Master of Fragmentation trait. Okay. But there you go. Wait, nah. The trait doesn't... I'm looking it up because I don't trust you guys. Master of Fragmentation. Boom. What does it do? Boom! I was right. There it is. Duration increased by 1 second. Hell yeah. Oh, it does more damage, but not the block. Oh, okay. Well, that's not that good, is it? That isn't that good. That's lame. Well, unlucky. Spell resistance completely useless. Unlucky. You hate to see it. You hate to see that. You can ignore bubbles now. I mean, hey, at least you have damage and boon rip. Oh, yeah, I forgot that. I should have mentioned that, actually. Yeah, I feel like this is like, for large scale, that, like, it's rip Spellbreaker, right? Like, for small scale, it can still work. But for like large scale, you're not gonna get anywhere near as much value out of that because the bubble doesn't do anything, right? You can't like stop the push, right? Like all you do is a little bit of DPS. Unlucky. Yeah, I was kind of thinking more about like the small scale world versus world, but yeah, for large scale, Spellbreaker definitely significantly less useful. But I mean, look, guys, we're shaking things up. It's good. All right, anyway, let's take a look at this. So, what else have we got here? Psychic, well, that's the stun break knockback thing. And this is the Twin Blade Restoration, the heal skill. 30 seconds to 25 seconds in PvP and World vs. 1. Increases the number of conditions removed from 1 to 2 in PvP and World vs. 1. Right, I'm going to give an incredibly boring answer here. So, you've even got some other abilities. Greatsword gets buffed. More power on Greatsword. More power on Mind Stab and Phantasmal Berserker. 15-second cooldown. And Moa. That's kind of fun. Moa, 90-second cooldown. Right, let me just talk about these changes, though, real quick, guys. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. The meta in PvP is weird, okay? It's weird as fuck. Like, does Mesmer even need that much more damage? Honestly, kind of no. Like, Power Mesmer hits fucking hard. The problem is they just can't really survive. Adding more damage to stuff, I'm not even sure it's... I'm not even sure it's a good idea, right? Because Mesmer can already just destroy you in one hit with, like, a big burst from, like, Mirror Blade, Mind Stab, and Shatters. Stuff like that. This gives it more damage as well. And, you know, you can... I don't know. Like, the problem with the meta is that the builds that dominate it are insanely good, right? Like, Blades one's a really good example of this. Like, Blades one's a really good build, but it's just not good enough, right? I think that you're going to see a lot more experimentation with the new Elite Specialists and other builds when other stuff gets nerfed, right? The problem is that it's really hard to say that, oh yeah, this change is going to be really fucking juicy, because we haven't seen nerfs to, like, the really, really overpowered stuff. Because I'm looking at this and I go, like, wow, these numbers are pretty good. But then I go, wait a minute. But what about Spectre existing, right? And then I realized that, oh yeah, this isn't going to see play because Spectre exists. And I'm kind of looking at it through that paradigm, right? Like, everything I see is being filtered through this idea that, oh yeah, the current meta is better than this, right? The current builds that see play are stronger than this. Specifically, I'm looking at you, Spectre. You're very overpowered. So it's a bit of a weird meme. I do think these changes are going in the right direction here, actually. With this, I think it's pretty damn good, right? The damage is going, you know, it's going up a lot. They buff Dagger as well. Like, they're just going to... I don't think Dagger really sees play, though, honestly. I don't think it can really... Maybe it can. Like, some kind of, like, Dagger focus sword, you know, some kind of, like, Dagger and sword build combined could see some play there. Like, Great Sword and then Dagger focus, maybe, or something like that. You stack a lot of mobility if you run that. I'm not sure if the Dagger weapon is really... that good for Virtuoso, really. Like, Mesmer needs to be kind of fast, right? You need to be zipping around all over the place, and you don't really have the ability to do that very well. Yeah, like, but then if you do that, you don't have Greatsword anymore, right? And you kind of want Greatsword for that massive burst spike weapon as well in PvP. It's like, you have to trade off so much, right? It's like so punishing to take that. Like, how do you fit that into your build without kind of gimping yourself a fair bit? I think it's difficult to do with the way Mesmer works out right now. But this is the CC, right? Yeah, Bladesong Dissonance, right? You can use your CC a lot more. And that in itself is a defensive, right? Being able to crowd control people is a bit of a CC skill. It's actually a pretty damn short cooldown, too, actually. 20-second cooldown, holy shit. Same thing with Psychic Force. And the heal skill, it's good. You know, Mesmer actually really struggles with heal skills, funnily enough. Like, it doesn't have that many good ones, right? Like, there are some classes like Warrior that have, like, a godlike heal skill. And there are other ones like Mesmer that just doesn't really have a heal skill whatsoever. I think, you know, people make fun of Mirage for flat out not having a heal. So, hey, it's finally time for Mesmer to have a heal skill with Twin Blade Restoration. Funnily enough, though, this skill actually has the power to make something work, right? It has the ability to make it work here because now it removes 2 conditions, and you can still get boons, right? You can get the boons up here for the Ages, which synergizes really well with the rest of the Virtuoso trait line. So you have that going there too. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I think one of the problems with some of these skills is they need usability increases. I actually think that we're looking at numbers here. We're looking at numbers, blah, 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 right? Oh, all over the place. Here, there, everywhere, right? Okay, but the thing is, right, is that Virtuoso needs usability, right? That you can't cast your blade, your blade songs when you're not looking at people, right? Very well. You just, ugh. Yeah, same thing with Twin Blade Restoration. I think it, like, bugs out if you're not facing the target. Like, that kind of stuff is just annoying, right? It's just annoying to play. It makes it, like, really difficult to actually get value out of, to be honest. And that's what's kind of holding it back right now. I think that it could be good, but I don't know. It just needs to actually be more reliable, more consistent, because right now it just isn't really. This one is fun, right? This one is fun. Is that you reduce the cooldown from 180 to 90 seconds in PvP and World versus World. Okay? So you can now mower people very often. That's half the cooldown. Okay, look. All the people who pull commanders, pull and mow comms are going to be loving this in World versus World. But this is actually a godlike skill. If you can actually immobilize the mower, right? So you mow the mower, right? Then you immob it, you stun them, right? You can definitely delete someone. You can take necros out of Shroud, right? For example, with this stuff, you can very easily burst down targets, right? Like anyone who's in a transform, you can shut them down. Like, you can use mower as the counterplay to a transform effect, for example. That's pretty interesting, actually. Pretty damn interesting skill, and could actually be a bit of the ace in the hole for some kind of Mesmer burst build here. Mesmer power would like really get that lockdown. My concern here is that Mesmer already does a lot of damage, right? And it could easily become very uninteractive. It's like mower, immob, just one shot out of stealth, kind of unfun. This is kind of a lot of the problems that power Mesmer builds have had over time, is that you can just stealth and then hyper burst people. Less so on Virtuoso, obviously, because you have a cast time on your F1, but on stuff like base Mez and Chrono, you can just kind of out of stealth and just one-shot someone. If they don't react to it, they're just going to die instantly, which ends up being kind of unfun to play against, right? So I think Power Mesmer is a pretty scary build. They need to keep an eye on there as well. Yeah. But I don't know. And the other thing that Virtuoso has, and this is the elephant in the room, it's not like Virtuoso didn't do damage. It actually can do a lot of damage. Like, having 5 shatters means that you can fucking blast people, right? You can absolutely annihilate people, okay, with your F1 and F2 with Power or Condi, whatever you want to play. The problem is there's just so much counterplay. It can be reflected. It has a cast time. It has a projectile time to it as well. So it's very easy to avoid it. Like, Virtuoso, it's too fair. It's, like, unbelievably fair. In terms of the way it's designed, right? I think it's always going to struggle a fair bit just because of that there are just way less fair things in the game. Like, a lot of other builds are way more unfair, and that just gives them a huge advantage over Virtuoso. But yeah, there you go. There you go. Unlucky. Necromancer. The following 3 skills were all dealing a bit too much damage when they were triggering with their Blight threshold bonuses. And for this update, we decided to keep the big Blight payoff and reduce the base damage to bring these skills more online. This was actually hilarious, not gonna lie. I saw some hilarious montages of this. Elixir of Ambition, was hitting people for 10k or more on a crit and giving all boons. Pretty overpowered. Not exactly the most balanced thing in the universe there, guys. Here's my problem with this ability. Okay? It's actually not the damage was too high, but the problem with elixirs is that they are very annoying to dodge, because the animations are quite short, particularly if you have quickness, which you have a lot of the time on Harbinger anyway, right? Because you take quickness traits a lot of the time, and you can downcast, right? You can cast it at your feet, and it has a very short animation. This makes it very hard to dodge. And if you get hit by this elixir, you are sad, okay? You get 5 condis on you, and you take a massive nuke of damage in PvP and World versus World. Blech. It's good that it's getting nerfed, but I think there's actually an inherent counter-playability problem with the way elixirs function right now, so I think that needs to be looked at in the future. It's not that much fun. You know what? This is going to be a hot take. Very hot take. I disagree with these nerfs. Because I'm going to give you guys a secret. Harbinger, not good. Okay? I know it was performing really well in ranked, right? But honestly, I think that's because people weren't used to it, actually. You've got to treat it like a Reaper, to be honest. You need to farm it hard. You need to farm the Harbinger. Otherwise, it's going to farm you. You know? You're a Necro fan? Well, no, I mean, Harbinger is just... It's actually not good. I actually don't think it's good. It just doesn't have the ability to survive. It just gets completely deleted in PvP. It just gets annihilated. Yeah, in World vs. World, where you can spec into toughness and stuff a little bit more, and you have more gear, so you can really go for some wild one-shots with power damage. Sure, maybe it's a little too much, but I actually think Harbinger is quite weak in PvP at least. It's not good. They're nerfing it for the Peepos. Yeah, sure, but I kind of like Harbinger. I kind of want it to be good, right? I want it to be good at high level because it's fun to play. And this is a pretty significant nerf too, Voracious Arc and Devouring Cut, both getting significant damage nerfs. They still get double damage or whatever when you're above Blight threshold. They're still going to hit hard. Don't get me wrong, they're going to hit hard. But these are significant nerfs that will make it significantly weaker. And bear in mind, it's already weak at high level. But I do agree. I think that, to be clear, my philosophy on this, actually, is that you should nerf things that new players have difficulty with. And new players do have difficulty with Harbinger. And therefore, I don't think Harbinger actually deserved this, but I think I'm changing my opinion. I agree with these changes because I think that this will... do I? I agree and I don't. I think this will probably end up being good for the game because I think that new players really have difficulty with Harbinger, but I'm a little sad that Harbinger is going to get worse than it already is. I think it already is on the weaker side, and this will make it significantly weaker, right, from a PvP perspective, which makes me a little sad. But there you go. There you go. Unlucky. That's not true. It should be. Like, I'll just explain this. If something's causing new players problems, like Flamethrower Scrapper, or Dragon Hunter, like Burn DH, right, or Harbinger, or whatever the cheesy build is, I think it should be nerfed, yeah, because you're never gonna get experienced players if they're all getting stomped and like having zero fun playing against Flamethrower Scrapper. Flamethrower Scrapper should be fucking nuked from orbits, right? It's a horrible build. It's not a good build. You're not going to see it played at high level. But the problem is that new players just cannot deal with it. And for good reason. It's a hard build to deal with, right? Like, if you don't know how to beat it, it's really... Yeah, same with Minion Monster, right? Like, Minion Monster is the same. Is it like was it a good build back in the day? Not really, but it was very oppressive to new players, and anything that's oppressive to new players is not healthy for the game. You need new players to actually enjoy, right? And actually have some fun, right? And if you don't do this, then yeah, I think what they could have done here is buff the sustain, right? Giving it a little bit more sustainability so it can actually survive, right? Because right now it just melts, it just gets farmed. Tone the damage down. I would nerf the elixir harder. I would make like the power scaling very low. I think that I think it's really obnoxious to play against actually. So I would nerf it even harder, to be honest. This stuff is fine. Maybe even nerf it a little bit more. It's still going to hit damn hard, to be honest, with the blight thresholds. Just not as crazy as before. And the auto attack fucking hurts too, but that's a bit more counter playable, so it's kind of okay in my opinion. The auto attack hits pretty hard, although maybe a bit Pepega, I suppose. But yeah, I think it needed a little bit more help. Maybe a bit more sustain, like a bit more ability to evade, right? Like, I don't know, it probably needs maybe some changes to the elixirs to help it survive. I don't know. Matchmaking is a problem for new players. It is, but it's not the algorithm. It's there aren't enough new players. And of course, CMC bringing the memes here. It wouldn't feel quite like a balance update without enhancements to the Necromancer's Axe. Axe is a place to give Harbinger back some of the damage it lost, while also giving a slight bump to Reaper, which has fallen off a bit during the changes for Ender Dragon. Okay, this change is weird, because Reaper and Harbinger have damage. Okay, they have a... like... Axe does a lot of damage, okay, on Necro. Axe 2 is actually a degen skill, I'm not gonna lie. It's like targeted, no skill to aim it, like pulsing damage. Just put on someone. 8-second cooldown now in PvP and World vs. World, and you actually did run this on Power Harbinger too. So yeah, I mean, I guess you can do more DPS without having to really kind of get in there on Harbinger, but Jesus... This ability is going to destroy, like, 1.3 power scale on Holy Feast. This ability already hits pretty hard, particularly if you land it on people under 50%. Reaper does so much damage. Okay, the damage on Reaper is crazy. Like, the problem with a lot of these specs, like Virtuoso, Reaper, Harbinger, Power Mesmer, right? Like, is that it's not that they don't do damage. They do. Believe me, guys. Reaper does a lot of damage. Berserker, right? Berserker does a shit ton of damage. The problem is that glass cannons don't really work very well in PvP, right? In World vs. World, it can work out a bit better, but you cannot play a glass cannon in PvP. You just get completely obliterated, right? You just get destroyed, all over those, which is the problem here, right? They need to either like change the way rolls work so that everything dies really easily, or they need to make it so that you have a better ability to survive on certain classes and you can actually deliver your damage. Because honestly, you know what? Here's a take. Berserker is actually a really dumb class in PvP. Because I play unranked because I like to examine the situation. It's like a safari, okay? And man, players are not good at dealing with Berserker. Holy shit. Like, Berserker is actually really oppressive in low-rated play. Like, really oppressive. Because people don't know how to deal with it, right? But the problem is Berserker good? No, it's actually terrible. It's the power build, right? It's one of the worst builds in the game for PvP. I'd say it's really, really bad. But the way it's designed is so fucking scuffed, right? Because it just has 1 billion damage on its F1 out of nowhere. And if you don't dodge it, you just die instantly, right? I think new players really struggle with it. And I think this is the type of design that Arena need to be really careful of, actually. Like, I think making stuff like one-shot Mesmer exist, making Flamethrower Scrapper, making Berserker, I actually don't like it existing in the game because it's very oppressive for new players. And I think builds that are oppressive for new players should actually be dealt with and changed so that they don't do that anymore. Reaper is one of them, by the way. Reaper farms new frogs actually really hard. I've been like doing solo queue on a Reaper account or in unranked, and man, you can like 1v3 people on Reaper because people just don't know how to. They just don't know how to deal with it. Early on, and it's like, wow, this is fucking bullshit, right? I'm just getting reaped here, and I die. It's a bit weird. So I think that's something to watch out for here as well. But you know what, guys? Should we talk about the elephant that isn't in the room? Dude. Chat, imagine playing Untamed. Imagine playing Untamed. Where is it? Where's Untamed, guys? Where is it? It's not here. I mean, they made some pretty good changes to Untamed in PvE. They buffed its damage a lot, right? And you know what? You know what Ranger means? I just baited you guys. Because Untamed is honestly not that bad in PvP, right? Let me just reiterate this again. I said this a while earlier in this little section, but the problem with a lot of builds in PvP isn't that they're bad. It's just that there are some builds that dominate the metagame a little too hard, and the meta doesn't fit them. For example, if there was like a duelist role, like, is there really a duelist role right now in PvP? Well, kind of with mech, a little bit. But until something can kind of match the mech in the 1v1, and provide that same level of value in skirmishes as well, realistically, nothing can compete. Is Untamed actually that bad? No, it will play out well in ranked. The problem is that it can't really make it to competitive play because its role doesn't exist. PvP roles is where the problem actually lies. It's the fact that, ooh, you've got really good numbers on Bladesworn, but it doesn't really fit in the meta, right? Untamed, it's actually not bad, but it just doesn't fit, right? There's no duelist, right, as such. You kind of have, like, everyone's a team fighter, right? Like, literally everyone is doing fights the entire time. Like, if you got into more of a skirmishing meta, which is certainly where we're going with the way Spectre plays out, to be fair, Thief always tends to control the metagame. Like, the way Thief plays out, the most powerful roamer is the way things go. So, yeah, could you actually see stuff like Untamed actually start to pop up? If the meta changed a little bit and shifted the dynamics, because look, it's not even a balance issue here, it's just the way that the game is playing out, it's the way roles are, which is of course kind of a balance issue, right? But it's a bit more of like a meta balance issue rather than like, oh, the numbers are bad. No, it's the fact that what it does, what it's selling, nobody's buying, right? Nobody wants Untamed, not because the numbers suck or it's complete fucking dog shit, it's because there's no market for it, right? There's no actual market for it. Right now in PvP, for sure. So that's what needs to change. If there's a few meta shifts and the game starts playing out differently because maybe it becomes more duel focused, maybe it becomes less team fight oriented, right, and more about 2v2s, 3v3s across the map, then you get in there. And honestly, that's a really complicated issue. A lot of the reasons why things play out the way they do right now is kind of because of Thief, and Thief kind of running around decapping and just forcing these big fights in a way. Spectre is pushing it a bit more skirmishy. The problem with Spectre right now, and yeah, that's the other thing, guys. Where are the Spectre changes? Okay? Where are the Spectre changes, guys? What the hell is going on here? Spectre is literally the most broken build in PvP by far. In fact, I was watching Naru's stream, and he said that the meta right now is 3 Spectres, Mechanist, and Support Guardian. The only reason that people didn't play triple Spectre in the monthly automated tournament is because nobody has enough Thief mains to actually make that work. So there's a good bonus meme for you. Enjoy that. Honestly, I think they will nerf Spectre. I think there'll be another patch. Wait a few weeks. I'd be amazed if they didn't nerf Spectre. It is broken. Absolutely broken. It's just a little bit too good at everything, right? It's very good at 1v1ing. It's very good at moving around quickly. It's very good at being in the team fight. It has support elements as well. And it's tanky because it has Shroud as well. It's like, dude, what can't this build do? Like, it's funny. Like, this is always the way it's going to be, right? Like, it's always the really versatile builds that kind of do a lot of, like, fill a lot of roles that end up being incredibly strong. Like, versatility in PvP is really, really powerful in Guild Wars 2. And, yeah, Spectre is that. I mean, it just needs to get nerfed. You know, Spectre is interesting. I actually think that the sustain is the problem on Spectre, not so much the damage. You know, because if you actually look at the monthly AT, the metagame actually played out pretty slowly. Like, it wasn't like a complete bloodbath. Everyone was pretty tanky. So I think just reducing the amount of sustain you have, making it easier to kill, easier to handle, you know, I think that would be the way to go there. Maybe toning down the mobility on the wells a little bit to kind of distinguish it from Daredevil a bit. Because right now it's damn fast as well. Like, you are fast as fuck on Spectre, right? Because, you know, like, oh, in fact, you know what's really funny? Check this out, guys. Let me log in. This is fun. So, look at it. Here we go. Right. Are you guys ready for, like, actual big joke? And you can see ArenaNet's intended design philosophy. Because if you go talk to the Spectre roleplay NPC in Saitung, look what they say. This is Waypoint over here. Check this out, guys. So if you go talk to this NPC, look what they say about being a Spectre. Check this out. Okay? Right. That's an odd greeting. How far into the shadows are you? Right? Let's see. Where do you have to go, right? There's like a dialogue tree here. Yeah, look. Many of us, what sort of weapons do you use? Yes, it is true. Many of us wield a scepter, though the shadows are our true weapons. Sounds like a lot. It seems like you don't move very quickly, though. And it is true. It doesn't move quite as fast as Daredevil, right? That is obviously true. It's not that fast, right? You can outrun it a little bit, but it's still pretty fast, right? Yeah, you have a lot of shadow steps with the wells. So I think looking at well cooldowns, or maybe the port range, right? Right now it's 900 if I recall correctly. Maybe make it 600 instead. So you can't quite go as far, right? With your well abilities, and, you know, then maybe that's the way to go, right? You know, all that sort of thing. You know, like, look at something like that to make it a bit more, you know, make it a bit more of a trade-off. Now, Thief is always going to be fast, right? Because of, you know, it has weapons that make it go fast. It has Shadow Step, right? You know, Infiltrator Signal, right? It has ports. It has that stuff, right? Oh, it is 600? Okay, wait. I thought it was 900. Okay, never mind. Right. Well, you could make it even lower then, right? You could maybe make it a little bit lower. You could put it down to, you know, like 450 maybe, right? To just make it a little bit less fast, right? Spectre is slow. Here we go. Let's look at some speed here. Oh my god. Yeah, as you can see here, guys, you're not exactly slow. Just let you know, honestly, look, I have seen people get, you know, honestly, if I was watching this, I'd say, holy shit, it's Jeff playing. If I'm looking at the minimap there, guys, I go, wow, Jeff is now a Thief main, huh? But yeah, definitely pretty speedy here, as you can see. All right, here we go. Let it go fully. I'm letting it go fully. Oh, yeah, boom, speed. Very nice. Right. None of those are wells. Yeah, that's kind of the issue, right? Like, it's just the fact that sword makes you go fast, right? Like, sword makes you go fast. Shadow Step makes you go fast, right? There are some wells being used here, as you can see, right? But it's kind of difficult. I don't know how you would do this. Like, I don't know how you kind of make it so that this isn't the case. I think probably just look at the sustain, right? Like, Thief is always going to be fast because of its very nature. So maybe just go ahead and say, well, just look at how tanky it is, right? Like, if it died a bit easier and it was easier to focus down, then it would be okay. Like, Daredevil would have the advantage in being that it is very evasive, right? It has the 3 dodges, right? And can break out of immobilize and stuff like that. You have the stealth access, which you don't really see that much on Spectre. Spectre's not very stealthy, actually. You typically, you don't play Shadow Arts, right? You're playing Deadly Arts, or you're playing Critical Strikes. So that would be okay. I guess the other thing would be here is that I don't think they should, you know what, this is going to be a bit of a hot take. I don't think they should actually reduce the damage on Spectre that much. I think that it kind of, having things that do a lot of damage are good, right? I think stuff like Herald is good. Having stuff like Hollow is good. Necro is good, right? You want things to die, right? Like, the meta is already relatively slow anyway, because supports are pretty strong, right? You have the revive skills. There's a lot of defensive cooldowns that exist. So I don't really want to slow the meta down. Maybe just change the initiative cost a little bit on Spectre. I wouldn't really go that hard on it, actually, in terms of the damage output. Because, again, I think that it's good to have stuff that kills stuff, right? You want roamers that do damage. I think the Maybe there's a bit too much condi spam. Like you get like 4 condis. If you use the sword dagger, scepter dagger ability, which is a bit blech. But I don't know. I think there are some changes that could be made with the way that Shroud operates. You could make the Shroud drain faster, for example, to make it a little bit harder to survive. You could make Shroud generation less generous in PvP, so you can't get as much Shroud there. You could even look at some weapon skills, right? And like you can't port as much. You could look at Infiltrator's Signet, right? You could look, honestly, Shadow Step is a pretty god tier ability, but I think the main thing with Spectre is actually sustain. If you remove the sustain and make the sustain, less busted, then I think Spectre is surprisingly okay. I feel like I'm going to live to regret saying that, right? I'm going to get, because oh yeah, Nerve State and Spectre's fine, guys. Trust me, right? And realistically, Thief is always going to be good. Like, I think Thief in the meta right now, that kind of Ultra Roma, nothing can really replace it. Who knows? Maybe Willbender, guys. Willbender's going to go big. It's going to match the Spectre. Oh yeah, let's fucking go, boys. Who knows? Maybe down the line, right? Maybe a little bit down the line, we'll see some exciting content with that, right? It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I love to see it. Hey, at least you can dodge steal a little bit. I mean, Siphon has a cooldown, right? So, as a caster, right? So you can actually dodge it a little bit. Maybe in a while, but yeah. Thief isn't going anywhere. This patch, does this patch actually change the meta that much? I don't think so. Not on its own in PvP. I don't think Catalyst will see play at high level. I don't think Virtuoso will see play at high level. Harbinger will still see play in ranked. I think it will still do really well in ranked. Virtuoso will do a bit better in ranked. Right? You'll be able to like carry a bit harder in ranked, I think, with this and just really blast people hard. Blades and Reckon's big. Like getting that block up time is really good. Like you can not. Maybe I'm being a little mean to Virtuoso. Like, maybe you are going to see some, like, big blaster builds. I watched Zenvo play it in an AT. It looked terrible. I'm not going to lie. It looked really bad. Like, really bad. But who knows? Maybe they'll make it work. Maybe they'll make it work there as well. Okay? Guardian, Firebrand's still good in World vs. World. Like, doesn't really matter. Willbender, I like the buffs. NG's still good in World vs. World. Mech gets nerfed again. Honestly, I'm expecting more nerfs to Mech and Spectre. Specifically, Alacrity nerfs to PvP Mechanist. It honestly just enables the whole build to come together. You can spam your Crisis. Honestly, I'd probably say cooldown increase on Crisis Zone probably needs to happen. It's just like a busted skill, to be honest. It's ridiculously good. Shift Signet, just being passive all the time is insane. Like, honestly, the Signets are pretty fucking annoying as well on that build. I don't know, like, Mech is scuffed, okay? Like, Mech is one of those things that probably shouldn't be good in PvP. Like, as long as it's good, it's probably going to be very oppressive and kind of unfun to play against. Sorry, Mech fans out there. It's just, ugh. Like, having a spec that AI focus is not a good idea. Like, Ranger pets are alright because they don't, like, define the entire build. But having the entire build being defined by just the mech is probably not very healthy. I'm not gonna lie, guys. It's not that good. Okay, I don't think it's really that good whatsoever. But there you go. There you go. There's a few other kind of, like, little meme changes here. Dude, scavenger protocols will no longer work when killing players. I actually think that's sad. I feel like that should work. Like, that means your Jade bot doesn't deliver value in World vs. World anymore with the scavenger protocol. I think they should actually change that. That is not good. I think they should have said that's not a bug, and they should have left it like that. Boom! There you go. I said it. I went there. Okay, what else have we got here? Anything else interesting here? Yeah, they actually did a few things. So they actually buffed some of the rewards here. They improved the timing and flow for the bite attack on Jade C. So basically, they're still doing some Su-1 changes, making Su-1 a bit easier. The big thing with Su-1 is that you get 5 stacks for doing the basically doing like the escort event of the buff, the Dragon's End contributor. So in other words, almost everyone is going to have 10 stacks all the time on the final boss, and that makes it a lot easier. By the way, that is a huge, huge DPS increase. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So that will actually make that a lot easier. Making it flow better is always good. Who doesn't love that, guys? Who doesn't love that? I love to see it. The other thing they did is, I think, yeah, you can actually buy tier 3 upgrades for the Jadebot modules. However, as I understand it, you can only buy the ones you've unlocked. It's more like you can re-buy them if you want to get more modules, I guess, which is I guess that's convenient. You don't have to, like, drop it every single time you want to make a module. So that's quite nice. But you still have to actually get the RNG. I'm actually really surprised they haven't added it as a currency thing, because I think I do like the idea of having these rare drops, but I think, you know, having a pity timer is pretty good as well, because, like, what if you just really want this one module and you just can't get it? I think you can buy it, right, on the trading post. It's not the end of the world. So it's like, oh shit, I got a drop, right? Then you can craft it and then sell it as like a cool high, you know, high value thing there. So I do quite like that, actually, to be fair. But still, right? You know, that's nice little convenience there, so you can make some more modules. There you go, it's good stuff. Then those are all the major changes here as well, like to some of the events. They added the rewards. They made the event rewards have improved. And by the way, I did a little bit of digging. Someone pinged me on Discord about this. This is what they've done. Let me tell you what they've done here, and it's quite smart actually. So, what have they done? They've actually made it so the events, like the pre-events and stuff, give you more rewards. You're just going to get more loot from doing the pre-events. This is actually incredibly important. Why? I'll tell you. Because the big problem with Ender Dragon's meta events compared to other ones in the opportunity cost is that you have to do the pre-event, right? Octovine, you don't have to do like all the events on the map beforehand. You just show up and kill the Octovine, right? Like 5 minutes, boom, in and out, right? If you want to do an Ender Dragon's meta event, you have to do like the escort event. You have to do the little pre-events, right? Like you have to do each step on its own. It's going to take you 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes, 30 minutes to do one of these Ender Dragon's meta events. That means they are always a bad value proposition. But ArenaNet don't want to put all the reward at the end, right? Because if you put all the reward at the end, you can leech, right? You can just leech. It just means that you want to leech the boss and get the reward chest, right? What do we do? Well, easy. They made all the events along the way better. It's I mean, I don't know what to say, right? This is the correct solution. This is the correct solution they've done. Okay, so now while you're playing through the pre-event, it's going to be worth it to do the pre-events, or more so anyway, and it doesn't disrupt the economy or destroy the game in any kind of way. So yeah, there you go. I think we might see a few more changes. I think they want to make the meta events really rewarding and really fun to play, so they might buff them even further, to be honest, because the buffs are not crazy significant, but it certainly helps out a lot. As I understand it, you get a lot of drops now for doing Su-1. Like, I've heard reports of players getting like 3 exotic weapons after beating it, which is, you know, quite a lot actually, right? But yeah, it's good. It is good. And bear in mind, Su-1 is still pretty good. There's actually one kind of little meta thing here. So what I've started doing a lot is actually skipping the pre-event entirely for Su-1. Like with semi-decent organization, you can just skip the pre-event entirely. This makes doing that way easier now, because you can rock up when the event starts, right? And then just do the escort events and you'll get 5 stacks for free, and that makes it way easier. So I was doing 0 stack runs. We were ending up with like 5 to 7 minutes left on the timer with no stacks whatsoever. This means that this will be a lot more accessible to pugs, and that massively increases the gold per hour, right? Because all of the gold is weighted on the final chest. Well, I know how he said they were trying not to do that, but they did it anyway, right? With the antique summoning stone that you get for like 15 gold at the end or whatever. Now you can get that done in less than 40 minutes, right? Because you can do just the boss event and not the pre-event. Because before it would be like, oh, you've got to do 2 hours time investment to beat the meta. Well, not now. Now you're going to have to do around 40 minutes of time investment to beat the boss and do the pre-event. So basically, they've doubled the gold per hour by doing Dragon's End. If pug maps are able to start pulling off no prep, which I think is actually pretty possible, by the way. Players, I want to just tell everyone here, guys, I was completely right about Dragon's End. It turns out that, you know, players got used to it pretty effectively, right? I think it's funny, like, people say the event's been nerfed really hard, and that's true and not true. They made it less random, and there's a lot less RNG now, but the fight actually isn't that much easier. The DPS check is the same. The only slight change to the DPS check is that the little ads, right, like the split ads, like the bosses, they die quicker now because they have mega exposed, and they still will, by the way. It didn't get changed. That was the only real nerf. They actually made break bars appear less, by the way. This is really weird. Like the break bar change they did last time, it used to be every single acid attack. Now it's every other acid attack, which is actually like a really, it kind of, yeah, you just don't get break bars as much, which is pretty crazy, right? This is a lot less random now. It's not really nerfed, and players are now able to do it much easier. I think people are still having a bit of difficulty with it, but that will improve over time. The win rate will go up, and this might actually be a pretty nice nudge in that direction, because a lot of players don't do the preparation. It was one of the main reasons why it failed, right? As I said at the time, by the way, and now that the game is kind of auto doing the prep for you, or a good amount of it, so you'll just go in there with a lot more, you know, with a lot more stacks, right? So there you go. But yeah. I just want to say that I'm right. I was right the entire time. People said that, oh yeah, it's total RNG. You guys were just lucky. Nope, we weren't. It will ultimately all come down to execution and playing correctly, right, and playing well. And it always was that way. Honestly, I'm pretty impressed. Like, the player base has actually learned how to do the fight a lot better. I've been joining some random pug runs of Dragon's End. And yeah, flat out, it is going a lot better. Even with a lot of pugs on the map and, you know, not many of my gang. People are still farming, right? Like, people are still farming it, and they understand how to beat the event now, and there's a lot more commanders leading it and feeling comfortable doing it. So yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good to see it succeed a lot more. I love to see it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that will be the one. That will be the icing on the cake, right? Rare infusion from Suwon. Yeah. Come on, guys. Right. Void infusion from Suwon. Let's go. Yeah. That would be all it needs, I think. Because right now, the gold per hour on it is pretty... It's hard, but it's probably not worth the investment. I think it's quite stressful. It's an intense event, right? Players aren't going to be drawn to it. But slap an infusion on it, and then you're in business. And then I think people would do it. And that's great. Because again, Dragon's End is a very powerful thing. It's a very, very powerful thing. It can bring players into this idea of group play with, you know, thinking about squad comp, thinking about boons, thinking about break bars, thinking about damage. I think it's the perfect thing to do. Slap an infusion on it, and players are going to want to do it, right? They're going to want to get in there and blast it. They're going to want to learn. They want to get coordinate and burn that thing down because they want that high roll, right? So I think that would be the thing that's missing. Okay? Get that going, get that thing blasting, easy peasy, big content, big gaming, and that will be the final change needed to Suwon. Because I think it doesn't actually need to be nerfed anymore. Because I think the player base is genuinely mastering it. I obviously won't know the exact success rates, but I think people are really getting the hang of it now and are learning how to do it, particularly with the consistency improvements, making it way less RNG, kind of less bullshit, right? Which is good. And they're even trying to do that now. Apparently it's bugged. Someone's telling me in the chat right now it's bugged, and it's kind of, the boss is like spinning around all over the place or something like that, but I'm sure they'll fix that relatively. A bit of a cheeky hotfix there. Cheeky hotfix memes. It's going to be good stuff. Good content indeed. I think that's actually all the changes. This was a big patch, by the way, guys. This is a giant patch. Genuinely huge patch with this stuff. It really was. I'm impressed. And just to kind of sum up here, a bit of a kind of summary meme to kind of go over all of this stuff here. I'm impressed with ArenaNet on this, because they're willing to make quick, responsive, and big changes. They're not messing around here, right? The exposed stuff is big. The catalyst changes are huge and well done and well responded to, right? PvP and Wolves, they're like, you know what, dude? What if we hit Spellbreaker with a giant hammer? What if we fuck up Spellbreaker? What happens in World versus World? And okay, some people have done some testing while while we were making this video actually, and apparently Spellbreaker has been hit really hard, so maybe a little bit harder than I expected there. But I think mostly in small scale. I am in large scale rather. I think you would actually probably still mess around with it, maybe in small scale World versus like GVG and stuff, but we'll have to see how that ends up playing out. But I think they could definitely buff this, right? It's like a little bit of an over nerf here to Spellbreaker, but overall, I'm really happy with all of these changes. They're making big ones, and I hope we see more, right? I want to see more changes. Hit Spectre with a hammer as well, guys. Hit it with a hammer. It deserves it, right? And I hope they continue to iterate. Like, the big thing that I want to see for World versus World is another stability applier. I kind of touched upon that when we were talking about Guardian. We need to see some stability gaming, right? Like, the reason Guardian is taken and is so dominant, right? Like, in the same way that Spellbreaker was, is because it has Omega Stab, right? In the way a lot of things don't, right? Like, there's nothing else that can really apply stability in the same way, but... other than that, we're really moving in the right direction. I don't agree with all the changes. I think not all of them are really going to do that much, right? I don't think that it's going to help that much with some stuff, but I think it is definitely a good step forwards with the approaches in both PvE, World versus World, and PvP. And the willingness to make big changes and to kind of experiment around a little bit, I think it's good. I think it's very, very good. You know what I'm saying? That ArenaNet are willing to do that and are, hopefully going to do this again very, very soon. And bear in mind, this isn't even the main patch. The big patch is going to be in June, right? I think is what they said. Yeah, June. Yeah. I think the date's confirmed, right? It's June 28th, I think, is when they said the patch is coming through. So we actually know when that's popping up. Very exciting stuff there. And that's going to be profession changes, more significant reworks, right? There's probably going to be more hot fixes down the line as well, right? You know, to PvP and PvE. Like maybe there'll be another patch in 2 weeks' time, right? Maybe in a month from now there'll be another patch. And then we'll see some more significant, like, full profession reworks when we actually get to June. So honestly, I think the development of skills is looking really, really good, actually. Yeah, like number tweaks can be there as well. I like that, right? I think this is... They're doing some good work here, right? They're doing some good work. And just, if you do feel frustrated with some of these changes, by the way, okay, then just remember that this change came very quickly, right? And they're going to do more. They're going to keep seeing what happens and seeing what people are going to do and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, that is what's going to happen here, right? They'll continue to iterate and improve on all these things. And hopefully we end up in a really, really good state. We're going to end up in a damn good state for Guild Wars 2. Look, this is what we've been asking for a very long time, guys, okay? A very long time we've been asking for this. We've been asking for more regular balance updates to shake things up a little bit and change things, and they're actually finally delivering on that, right? It's very good stuff, right? You know, I've got to say, big content, big gaming, big memes. Good job, ArenaNet. Good patch. I give it seal of approval. Okay. Overall, moving in the right direction. We're not there yet, and I'm not gonna lie, the PvP meta is probably still very fucking scuffed, but I like the philosophy behind the changes here, or at least most of them anyway. Most of them are pretty good. But yeah, they actually have a team on this, confirmed. Balanced team, confirmed, at ArenaNet. Hell yeah. Love to see it.